Both watercolor and acrylic art have their appeal, and it is not a competition where one is better than the other. This video is more about discussing the differences to help you figure out which medium would suit you best. Both acrylics and watercolor are great options for beginners and even kids as they are water soluble. Now dive deep in this video to know a more detailed look at acrylic vs. watercolor paints. Watercolor paint. Watercolor paints contain pigments in a natural gum arabic. The paint can also sometimes contain other ingredients like glycerin or preservatives. Acrylic art paints. Acrylic paints contain pigment, acrylic resin, and binder. Acrylics are a little more versatile, as they can be watered down to imitate a watercolor effect. Watercolor paints come in pans and tubes. Using watercolor pans is easy, as you can begin painting straight away. When it comes to the watercolor tubes, the paint is a bit more saturated and works great for large areas and washes. Also, if the acrylic paint dries, you can simply add a little water to use it again. Acrylic paints tend to come in jars, tubes, and bottles, of which there are a few different types available. You get your standard paint, different fluid types of acrylic paint, and paints that are reworkable. Many of the acrylic paints have different drying times, the longer the better for some. Watercolors come in a variety of transparencies, including extremely transparent, semi-transparent, and opaque. When painting, you can use these different levels of transparency to create layers and experiment with the vibrancy it creates. Acrylic paints have a brighter appearance when compared to watercolors and are more opaque. You can thin acrylics until they become similar to watercolors and provide a transparent effect. However, even if you do thin the paint, it does tend to have more of a milky appearance. Watercolor paints dry fast, in around 5 to 15 minutes. However, you can easily re-wet the paint and use it again. The drying time is variable and may rely on factors like humidity or the amount of water you use. Cleanup is also easy since it is water-based. The paint easily comes off your brushes and clothes. Simply wipe them off with a wet cloth. Acrylic paints dry quickly, so you need to work quickly to get things done. Generally, it takes around 10 to 20 minutes to dry. This makes blending and covering larger areas a little challenging. Brushes can be cleaned using water with some soap and should be done immediately once you have finished painting, as the paint will become difficult to remove once dry. Acrylic paint is cheaper because it lasts longer. On the other hand, watercolor is affordable depending on quality and brand. Both are great mediums, but acrylic paints are easier to use and any mistakes can be easily fixed. Watercolors can be difficult to learn and any mistakes you make are extremely difficult or impossible to fix. So, when it comes to watercolor vs. acrylic for beginners, acrylics might be the better option. There are quite a few differences between watercolor and acrylic paints. Acrylics can be used on watercolor paper and a variety of other surfaces, whereas watercolor paints should only be used on watercolor paper for the best results. When comparing watercolor vs. acrylic paints, drying times can vary according to temperature, humidity, the brand of paint, and the type of surface you are painting on. Acrylic paints dry quickly within about 10 to 20 minutes. However, once dry, the paint cannot be re-wetted and used again. Watercolors also dry fast, within 5 to 15 minutes, but unlike acrylics, you can easily re-wet the paint and carry on working. Comparing two strong competitors is not just an easy task. However, we've done a little, but choose yours according to your preferences. This video is just to help over the topic. Hope this video helped you out. Thanks for watching till the end.